My name is Vanessa Tellez, and I will be presenting on parenting children with and without disabilities. One reason that researchers research health and illness is to analyze the experiences of those who live with illness each day. For example, how illness affects individuals' sense of identity and relationships with family. Having a disability not only affects the person, but it affects the parent as well. There are many responsibilities, sacrifices, and other struggles or complex situations that parents may face when parenting a child with disabilities. My research question is, do mothers who have children with disabilities experience more stress than mothers who have children without disabilities? The reason I chose to research this is because before deciding that I wanted to be a social worker, I had thought about being a teacher for children with disabilities. I feel that it is important to give special care and attention to those who need it slightly more. I also feel it is important to note the stressors mothers may have due to different situations they face when having children with disabilities. This topic interested me because I would like to analyze the differences in parenting the two categories of children, that is, with and without disabilities. It is important to take note of any differences to be able to provide support for mothers or parents who are in need. In order to study these stressors, it was important to analyze mothers as the population. In an article, the authors analyzed the differences between mothers and fathers with children with disabilities and mothers and fathers without children with disabilities. The authors found that parents with children with disabilities experience more stress, and parent stress was associated with influence by family psychological resources. It was concluded that fathers have less support than do mothers, and perhaps counseling would help the parents who are in need of extra help. In a similar study regarding parental stress due to having children with disabilities, the authors examined psychological experiences of parents caring for children with mental disabilities. They found that caring for those with disabilities bring on challenges due to lack of support, and the parents experience stigma, discrimination, mental health issues, and even suicidal thoughts. The authors concluded that parents are in need of psychosocial training interventions to meet the needs of parents with children with disabilities. Another study also examined stress on parents with children with disabilities. However, they paid close attention to the use of social support. The authors found that mothers and fathers experienced the same amount of stress. However, stress was presented different between the both. They also felt that programs and interventions would help those parents to cope with their children's behaviors or disabilities. A contrasting article pointed out that children with Down syndrome may actually cause rewards and less stress for parents. So this was a different take on the situation. They found that parents to children with Down syndrome do indeed report less stress than those with other disabilities, and the children's behaviors elicits parental reactions. In this other study, the topic was further explored by analyzing parenting children with disabilities. The purpose of their study was to analyze relationships between mothers and their children with disabilities. They found that mother-child experiences changed as the child got older. In addition, children with disabilities can grow as active agents in their own lives. And they concluded that a process-oriented approach, while considering family dynamics and how it changes over time, was important in understanding the bond between mothers and their children with special needs. I'll be talking about the methods. The participants in my study were 4 mothers with children between the ages of 16 to 21 years old, the mothers were interviewed. 2 mothers had a child with disabilities and two had a child without disabilities. One of the mothers was a single mother, and all of them resided in Southern California. The participants were asked to participate in an interview, and consent was given to use the responses in my study. A qualitative research method was used to conduct one-on-one interviews with the participants. Dr. Mountain Research has used these interview methods to collect data, for example, the articles and studies that I mentioned previously. Interviews were used in those research articles to gain a personal insight on parental roles while caring for children with disabilities. This method is a good fit for my research question because I will be able to gain trust, empathize, and listen to mothers' responses without judgment. In addition, I hope to gain an insight into the differences in stress levels between the mothers who parent children with and without disabilities. I sat individually with each mother and asked a total of 5 questions to each mother. To mothers who have child or children with disabilities, I asked one additional question. I listened carefully to the mothers' answers as they gave me their thoughts and opinions. One mother had both a child with disability and without disabilities. Therefore, she compared what it was like having both when she answered her questions. She will be participant A. I hypothesize that mothers who have children with disabilities will experience more stress due to responsibilities, stigma, and other personal issues than mothers who have children without disabilities. One limitation in my study was the time I had to conduct my research. A longitudinal study would benefit in following the mother and their children from young adulthood and asking the same questions to see if the answers or stressors stay consistent. Another limitation to my study is the small sample size. In addition to this, I believe asking an even amount of single mothers versus mothers with children with disabilities and mothers with children with disabilities and without disabilities and mothers with children without disabilities would aid in better results. A third limitation to my study is that I analyze a general population of mothers with children with disabilities. Categorizing the different types of disabilities could end in different results. This leads me to my results. The first question I asked is, what things have you found to enjoy about having a child with special needs or just having a child without special needs? Participant 1 answered, their love is unconditional and they never ask for anything versus my normal child. She's independent, but I won't let her wash the dishes. As for her normal child, she answered, it is different, especially because he was a boy. He talked a lot more, he would express himself a lot differently, and he was able to help me with chores. Participant 2 answered, it's hard to sum up, but his purity and innocence and the love he gives is like no other. I find that he is very admirable. Participant 3 and 4 do not have children with disabilities, and they answered, the love they give you and the things they handmake for you, that is really special to me. It's amazing how God created these beautiful babies inside my womb, and to me I love watching them grow through all stages in life. Breastfeeding was a special bond that I still miss after all these years. The second question that I asked, what are the challenges you face as a parent to a child with special needs? Participant 1 and 2 answered, I have to always be there. What I mean by this is I can't leave her alone like I would another child. She doesn't cook for herself, and it's a lot easier with my daughter than with my son. She doesn't go out, she likes to be home. As for her son, he would talk back, he wanted to date. She doesn't ask me that. He would get into trouble at school, and she never has. He would go out and I wouldn't know it, and he always wanted to be with friends. With her, it's more stress. Participant 2, acceptance and understanding, even for my family. Sometimes it's hard to accept that I have a child that is a little different because I know he won't live a normal life. And when family isn't always supportive or understanding, it makes it difficult. Participant 3 and 4 said, the challenges I have as a parent is raising them to be a good human being and learning to let them be adults. It's scary out in this world and you always want the best for them. As a parent with my own disabilities, I find it hard to parent my own kids when I become overwhelmed or overstimulated. I don't have a huge support system with people to watch my kids, so it's hard to get alone time for dates and vacations with my husband. In addition, I have impulse issues and I'm a very overprotective mother. If my kids have any problem with another child, my mama bear instinct sometimes takes over, and sometimes I regret some of my actions. I also asked, do you ever feel overwhelmed? Participant 1. Yes, it's overwhelming because there's things she doesn't understand when I explain. You need a lot of patience. Today I had to take her to my room. I had to repeatedly ask her to come out, but she wouldn't. I had to explain that my clothes and makeup is mine. I also felt overwhelmed with him because I couldn't do certain things for him. And he would overwhelm me because he wouldn't listen to me. They overwhelm me in different ways. One overwhelms me because he needs to get things and he knows. One overwhelms me because she doesn't understand what I'm trying to get her to know. Participant 2, most definitely overwhelming at times. People stare and you have to kind of ignore it. Sometimes you want them to understand you, but they can't. Yes, trying to be a wife, mom, working mom, and having all the titles we as moms have, being a mom 24/7 is hard in general. Yes, daily. Raising children is tough and no one really likes to talk about it. I also asked if they feel that their religion helped them in raising their child. I felt it was important to ask this question because religion, to me, is a huge role when dealing with things such as disabilities. Participant 1. No, not even my family, because I didn't understand. They didn't take the time to get to know her. They wanted to blame her disability and always keep her ignorant, but she wasn't. They didn't see her as a person. They would talk to me to communicate to her. Participant 4. Yes, absolutely. We go to church every Sunday and they know who Jesus is. It's important to teach them these things which comes along with morals. I also asked, what concerns do you have for your child's future? One participant stated, my concerns are that they have learned from my mistakes, that they will always make the right choices and be successful. Finally, I asked only to the mothers who have children with disabilities, how does having a child with a disability affect her other children? One participant said not at all, and another participant said that it affects them just as much as it affects parents. Findings. From my results, I can detect that being a parent in general causes stress. Whether a mother has a child with a disability or not, they are constantly worrying about their next step in life. According to my analyzations, mothers with children with disabilities experience slightly more stress than mothers who have children without disabilities. Mothers with children with special needs do not get the support needed to raise their child. The most important thing learned was that both mothers experience stress, but they experience a different kind of stress. For example, mothers with children with disabilities experience discrimination when people stare at them or do not get the approval from family members. And however, both mothers experience stress from worrying about their children's future. My results support the concepts that, like members of minority groups, people with disabilities experience stigma and discrimination. For example, one of the participants had answered that their family does not treat her child with special needs the same as they treat her other child. And in addition, my results also support that having disabilities can threaten social relationships. For example, even relationships within family. The same example that I just used. Sometimes family is not always there for them, for the children with disabilities. This will be my discussion section. In this study, I examined whether mothers with children with disabilities experience more stress than mothers who have children without disabilities. These findings are slightly consistent with previous literature that mothers with children with special needs or disabilities experience more stress. In addition, my results revealed that having children with disabilities also bring out positivity in parent-child relationships. Both mothers with children with disabilities and mothers with children without disabilities experience stress, but they experience different kinds of stressors. For example, one of the participants stated that she worries because her child cannot cook and do things for her own self. And for her child without disabilities, she worries because she wants to make sure that he'll be fine in life. My hypothesis that mothers with children with disabilities would experience more stress was slightly supported by the results. Researchers should note any current stressors in mothers' lives, for example, socioeconomic status, that could change the results. Future research should consider a longitudinal study to analyze mothers and their children from the start of the birth until they are young adults to gain a better insight to the different stressors that they may face. Thank you for listening to my presentation.